And we're live. Hello, folks. Welcome to
Hello.
our video this week. Our hangout for Why the Last Man. This is for Volume 2, called Cycles. As you may or may not know, we did Volume 1 last week, a live hangout with Dr. Monkeybot and myself.
Hello.
And we had a fantastic time.
Good fun.
And then we decided that we're going to do one every week for each volume because we figured reading one volume a week is easy enough.
Yeah.
And we have fun talking about it.
Yeah. And it's not too big a commitment with 10 weeks of talking about it. It's fine.
Exactly. So, if you're interested in watching us, go back and watch last week's for Volume 1, titled Unmanned. This week is Cycles, and then so on and so forth until the 10th volume, where we will finish up sometime in, is it June? Yeah, it'd be June.
Yeah, probably will be June, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll just jump into Volume 2.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
We start off with Yorick, Agent 355, and Dr. Mann.
Yep. Okay, so I always feel like with these, because I've read this before, I want to gauge your response to each volume before we get going.
Okay.
Just to see what you think, because I will start flying straight away, and you probably won't get a word in edgeways. So
Oh, that's fine. That's
I
fine.
assume you enjoyed it.
I really did enjoy this one. I really liked. First off, I've always wanted to be like a hobo on a train. Always,
Right.
since I was a kid. I always wanted to be like, let's jump in the fucking car and go, go on a train ride and not pay for it. So starting it off with that was awesome. I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Surrounded by pigs and threatened by women with knives. Woo!
Yes!
Best trip ever!
Right? But I did really like that. I find it funny how I mean it makes sense, but like the motorcycle, trading the motorcycle for passage on a train for I couldn't tell if like he actually bartered for the three of them to go, or if it was supposed to be just for him.
I don't know. Well, I suppose it was for space, and she was just going to leave the boxcar open, so it wasn't really. She didn't give a shit who jumped in there. I guess
Right.
it was just I'll leave that door open and you can get in there. And then it's up to him if someone else goes, I suppose.
I suppose, yeah. So yeah, that was funny because she was like, nope, I can't do anything for you, fuck you. And then she was like, then Yorick was like, I got this motorcycle here that you can have, and she's like, oh, well, if that's the case, sure, yeah, get on.
Well, because he does a great response as well. It's like "man alive" or something, and Jerry's like, "What?"
Oh yeah,
turn of phrase, terrible turn of phrase.
yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that was really funny. So yeah, we had that to start off, and they get on the train, and then we cut to
It's all
Hero.
to get it by them trying to get out to
Oh yeah,
across the country to get to Dr. Mann's backup
I
lab.
guess I could explain that to anybody who's watching.
If we're going to spoil it, let's fully spoil it.
Yeah, that's right.
Train.
They just wanted a train ride. No reason whatsoever. No, they're going to California to get to Dr. Mann's backup laboratory type thing, so they can go do tests on Yorick and all that. Or he even makes the mention of swabbing his cheek.
Yeah.
And him just taking off to Australia.
Yeah. Dr. Mann is suitably prickly to everything that Yorick says.
Yeah.
What is it? I can't remember what it is. It's something like, well, that's probably why you weren't nominated for the prize. The Solid Progressive Science Prize. Yeah, probably. That's probably why you didn't receive the National Medal of Science.
Oh yeah, and then I guess before. Wait, is that before or after Hero? Now I'm losing track. Okay, no. Then we cut to Hero.
Yeah.
Before the whole train craziness happens.
Mm-hmm.
And Hero's just like it's funny. They go to Fenway Park, and then the first scene is Hero just punching the shit out of this chick. Like, you're just like, okay.
Because it comes directly after Yorick's talking about how his sister's probably fine.
Yeah.
He's probably volunteering somewhere, doing a Florence Nightingale thing, and then it's just beating the shit out of him.
Yeah. And that's so funny.
Yeah, Yorick does not quite realise how far Hero's fallen. She's gone really, really bad.
Yeah, he realizes it later on in this book, though.
He does.
Yeah. And then she professes her love for the leader of the Amazons.
Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria. Yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah.
I just got this weird feeling about that part.
Has it all? I mean, that's the thing that I really love about this volume, and that it's the second storyline, is that it takes all of the things that you learn about the characters from the first volume, and it really fleshes them out. So, like we were talking in the last one about how Hero's just looking for something to latch onto, and she was going from one relationship to another even before this whole situation. And that this is just another example of that. She's just like, she needs some sort of guiding strength to show her what to do.
Yeah.
Within weeks, she's just like, I love you. There's just no, that's how she is in any interaction. She just gives herself completely over to it.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of, that's where she gets her strength from, is other people, and then telling her what to do, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so that is really odd and awkward, but this Victoria woman is such an evil bitch that she clearly knows. She clearly knows exactly what is going on with Hero, and she clearly knows that she's a really useful tool.
Oh yeah, and then
she plays on it hugely.
She buys her off with like 3 protein bars.
Yeah, she's like separating her off from the others. She's giving her all this special treatment and making her seem like she's the most special one in the group, because she knows that she can get her to do whatever she wants.
Yeah,
she's pretty evil.
It's funny because when I read this, have you ever seen the movie Raising Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay, when she says, I love you, Victoria, I love you so much, I got the scene of Raising Arizona where they just stole the baby, and they're in the car, and she's like, I love him so much. Like I got that in my head for some reason.
Yeah, no, I can see.
Because I mean, it shows her crying, and I'm just like, every time I read those words or anytime I hear those words, like I always get that feeling. I always like go back to that movie just because that part is so hilarious.
That is a great film. I think there's some good Coen-y moments in this series.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of them.
Yeah. And then we go back to the train.
Yeah.
Where Yorick is talking to 355 and kind of asking her what she was doing before all of it happened. Yeah,
with the conversation in the boxcar between the three of them, you kind of get a little bit more information about all of them. Like Dr. Mann gives you a bit more about her background, and you find out about her parents. And she has that really awkward moment where she talks about her father, that the one good thing to come out of this Holocaust is that her dad's dead because she hated him.
Yeah.
And
I was like,
Yorick and 355 are like, okie dokie then.
Like, okay, and change the conversation.
So you get
subject change.
Yeah. So you get a bit of insight into Dr. Mann's background and her heritage and what her parents are like and things. And then you get a little bit about 355 and her past and connection to the Copper Ring and all this sort of thing.
Yeah, and then Yorick asking her what the medallion was all about because
Well,
he stole it from her without her knowing, and
well,
yeah,
hmm. And I do love the fact that it's their relationship just getting more and more involved. And even though it's kind of a bit bickering, it's not really. They're quite clearly becoming really close.
yeah,
Um, Even though there's the whole thing where um, Yorick's talking about how he's eaten so many canned peaches that he shat a cobbler.
yeah,
It's just like, God, you make me want to puke.
yeah. That was
And
funny.
that kind of backwards and forwards between the two of them is just great. And obviously, it pays out a little bit later on in this volume as well. And you start
Yeah,
seeing there's a little bit more depth to this backwards and forwards between the two of them. It's a really interesting, sweet relationship building up between them. It's not just her looking after this idiot boy anymore. She's clearly grown quite fond of him, and she realizes that he's like when he first makes the trade with the motorbike and things. Dr. Mann saying, "I didn't think he had it in to basically get us anywhere near that train, let alone on it." And 355 is like, "He can surprise you. He's a little bit, he's a little bit more intelligent and capable than you think he is." So it's good. I really like the way that they just these little conversations are done so well between the action. You really start to get a bit of. There's a lot of dialogue in these
yeah,
scenes, and all of it is really important to the way that you understand these characters, how they interact with each other, and the way that their development, their relationships developing.
yeah.
And then you get the knife wielding psycho
I was
women.
gonna say, and then we get two crazy bitches jumping on the train, and what are you doing on my train?
Yeah, yeah, and it's just that, like we were talking about with the last one, that balance between the really nice character emotional stuff and then just a little bit of action just to keep the pace of the book up.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I don't know, just even the way that scene's played, you get a sense of the dynamic of the three of them. 355's about to take the situation into control with a gun, Dr. Mann being like, no guns, no guns, and then Yorick just throwing himself at this woman.
and then kicks him out.
Booting him out of the train. Yeah.
And then them take 355 pretty much takes out the girls,
Yeah.
and she's like, we have to go after Yorick. And Dr. Mann's like, no, I'm not jumping out of a boxcar. I'm not jumping out of a moving train. And then she's like, we need to go. Was it? I can't jump out of a moving train. You can, and you will. Now let's go. The longer we argue, the further away we get from Yorick. Go without me. I can make it to San Francisco on my own.
Yeah, and then Dr. Mann suggests that you could just throw these crazy hobos out of the train. And 355's like,
good idea.
Someone out of the train.
Tosses Dr. Mann out of the train.
And then we get a scene that sort of foreshadows what happens later towards the end of this volume and the big moment at the end of it. And you get this character who pops up twice in this volume. This, what everyone assumes is a crazy Russian woman walking around the street saying how the men are in space.
Yeah.
And everyone ignores her. Everyone thinks she's mental. Everyone just pushes her away and gets her off.
Because she's Russian.
Yeah, Victoria's just like, nah, crazy Russian. So yeah, she will appear later again in this volume. Maybe even less crazy.
A little bit less, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
But then we're transported to a new city or gathering village type area.
Yeah.
Marysville, Ohio, and this is where most of this volume takes place. Which is fantastic. I had a different kind of thought about what Marysville was until the reveal. I thought Okay, so Marysville is basically this gathering of females, of course, because that's all that's left
Mhm.
in the world. Um, and doing really, really well for themselves.
Yeah.
They have power. I think Yorick even mentions it. Like it's the first
Yeah.
place that he's seen with electricity
Yeah.
since it happened. Um, but yeah, they have power. They like food.
Yeah, they're
Whatever.
growing their own
It's
food,
just
they've got power, they're completely organised, they've got a town charter and all this sort of stuff. But clearly, they've set themselves up
yeah,
really
very
quickly,
well.
really well.
Yeah. So I automatically thought that um, it was like a town made up of lesbians
Hmm.
that had all this set up beforehand,
Yeah,
where they didn't need the men because
yeah,
they're like fuck it,
yeah,
we'll do it without them. That's
yeah.
what I thought.
And they kind of suggest a little bit before you get the big reveal of what this town is. They sort of suggest that might be what it is when Yorick first meets all of the townspeople, and some of them are clearly couples,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you're like, okay. And the old woman talks about how they've done without men for a long time before this and all this sort of thing. And it's not quite clear what this is, but you do get the sense that yeah, they could. This could be a community that already existed in this way.
Yeah.
No.
And then
Stop.
I was completely wrong.
Yeah.
uh, Jumping ahead a little bit, we find out that this community is made up of females who were imprisoned for doing different crimes. I really, really loved the old lady who
Yeah.
killed her husband.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
It's completely like, I'll do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I loved her. She's fantastic. But they start off with they find out who Yorick is.
Mhm.
Because
You get I keep forgetting this character's name. So
Sonia. Yeah, Sonia.
basically finds Ampersand and Yorick just passed out on the ground.
After they got thrown out of the
Yeah.
train by
So yeah, she
crazy
basically
ladies.
she finds a man just lying on the ground.
She's like, and I will keep him.
Yeah, her response is just, "Thank you, Jesus."
Yeah, that was funny.
I mean, I think like we were talking about in the last volume, the way that Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerra are really, really good at making you like these characters instantly. I think that straight away you like Sonia.
Oh yeah.
That she comes across Ampersand and she just goes straight up to him and she's just like, "What the fuck?" That's her first response.
Yeah.
And then when she finds a guy, she's just like,
Thank you,
instantly, you really, really like this girl. She's not like, "Oh my no, what's this?" She's just like, "Oh fuck, what the shit's this?"
Yeah, she is fantastic, and like you said, you automatically feel this connection to her.
Mm-hmm.
Just her personality, and then as it goes on with her talking to Yorick, it just what the hell? Sorry, my wife is texting me like crazy. Oh my god! What does Batman get in his drinks?
I don't know.
Just ice. And then she put it together as justice.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I got it.
That's. Oh my god. I love my wife. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Getting back to Yorick laying naked in a bed.
Well, before we get there, we get we've seen how 355 and Dr. Man fared jumping out of a train, which with Dr. Man was great. She's like, "That was awesome."
Yeah, she loved it. She was completely against it, She's like, it reminded me of like a kid who's like, let's do it again.
Yeah. Just
You
like
know,
standing in line for a roller coaster crying, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And at the end, it's just like, again.
yeah. And then 355, like on her deathbed,
Yeah.
nailed her head on a rock, bleeding profusely.
Yeah. Not looking too good.
Yeah, really, really bad.
Mm.
Right there, with the, if you can see it. Oh, there we go. Blood in the eyes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not good.
Not good at all.
Yeah.
So we find out what happened with them.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to Yorick laying naked in a bed.
We get my favourite page, I think, in this whole thing. And it's that perfect combination of Brian K. Vaughan's writing and the references he uses, and the fact that it's the perfect frame of reference for us as readers, and Pia Guerra's artwork, that she basically manages to recreate the scene from Back to the Future where he wakes up after being unconscious in the bed. And it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It's the way it looks. You can tell what's happening. The way the dialogue between the two of them is almost identical to that. And they reference it later that that's what it is if you missed it. But even just reading through it, the first time I was just like, that's Back to the Future.
Yeah, exactly. I was waiting for the Calvin Klein for her to call him Calvin Klein.
Yeah, when she says she uses his name, and he's like, "How did you know?" I was expecting her to say it was written in your underwear.
Yeah,
but she doesn't. They're not quite that on with it. But yeah, it's on his instead. It's on his membership card for the International Brotherhood of Magicians.
Yeah, I love that.
Such a loser.
And then she's like David Blaine?
Yeah, and his response is brilliant. I'm nothing like David Blaine.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. I'm an escape artist. Yeah. That's funny, because nobody wants to be like David Blaine.
No, they don't. Yeah. And then she gets a flash of his giblets.
Yep. She's like, you might want to stay put. And he gets out of bed and is completely naked.
That is because, she's washed his trousers because basically he shit himself when he
shit himself.
Everything about this whole meeting between the two of them is just the most embarrassing thing ever.
Yeah. And then they start like the little banter between the two.
Yeah.
And
it's just from the off. They just clearly like each other straight away.
Yeah. It's just cute.
Yeah. It's really because it's the frame of reference thing. They both get each other's references instantly, and they're references that are quite obscure in their own way, and each knowing it, it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
You got my reference from The Man Who Fell to Earth. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
It's very cool. It's very sweet. Very sweet. Yeah, no, I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, that was just very... Yeah, I liked it a lot too. Then Yorick realizes, he's like, oh shit, what the fuck happened to 355 and Dr. Mann?
Yeah.
She's like, don't worry, I'm sure they're fine. Cut scene to fucking 355 with a bandage over her eye, bleeding all over the place.
Yeah.
And then I really liked Dr. Mann asking 355 like questions to see if she's all right. Like, what day of the week is it? What's your first name? And then she's like, it's classified. She's like, okay, you're good.
Yeah. And I love that when one of the first things 355 does is try and give her a gun. And she's like, you just banged your head, I'm not going to shoot you. You're not going to pick out your misery. It's like, protect yourself, you idiot. Yeah. And then we get to see a bit more of Hero and Victoria, and Hero showing quite how awesome she's turned out to be with a bow and arrow.
On the back of a freaking motorcycle.
Yeah. shooting from one motorcycle to another motorcycle while they're moving.
Right. And shooting this chick in the leg, and Victoria's like, "Oh, good shot." And she was like, "I was aiming for the tire." That was great.
Well, it's very cool.
Yeah. And
yeah, we get a bit more of Victoria. She just constantly is spouting these speeches based in books that she's read. That
yeah,
yeah,
she's just, oh god, you're already like, God, I wish somebody would fucking kill her.
yeah,
Like, just, oh my god, shut up.
yeah.
I want to stab you in the throat.
Yeah, if only someone did that.
Or chop you in the face. Did I say that?
Give it a minute.
In about 40 pages.
Then we get another nice little backwards and forwards between Sonya and Yorick.
Yeah, I loved this whole part too.
Yeah.
Where she, like, pretty much introduces him to the whole community.
Yeah.
Him thinking that nobody else knew. She's like, he's like, we need to do something before anybody finds out that I'm here. She's like, yeah, I'm about that. Here's everybody that knows who you are.
Was it Yorick? This is a town of 67 gossiping women. Did you really think I could keep something like this a secret?
Yeah, I love that. And then he's like, ah, crap. Love it.
Yeah. There's a thing that he says earlier on, which just made me piss myself again. When he's talking about what do I owe you for cleaning the underpants?
Yeah.
No, nothing. It's like the last thing the only thing I put is ampersand, and he'd be as much use to you as in stage syphilis.
Yeah.
It's a horrible And he just says such weird, horrible things all the way through, and yet the two of them work really well. Because her response is, "Oh, I love your monkey, he's sweet." And then Yorick comes back with, "Yeah, well, so the smell of burning flesh doesn't mean it's good."
Yeah.
Why do you think so? Yeah, he's an awkward, funny little man.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we get the town.
Yeah. And like we discussed earlier, you get this this feeling that they've been doing this for a while. They're set up really well for just having to deal with all the men, dying. So you definitely get a feeling like I said, the first feeling I got was like this was a full-on lesbian community before anything happened. And then, as we also said and spoiled already, it's a community of criminals that were in prison, nearby prison. And then when all the men died, they pretty much got out.
Yeah, the prison guards let them out.
Yep.
So they wouldn't just die there. And they ended up moving into the town and the houses of the former prison guards lived in. They just set up a community there. And you get Dr. Mann turns up and is just like, "Oh, thank God I found you." There's a mention of 355 working for the government, and it sets the whole town a bit like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Kind of sends them all crazy.
Yeah, because they instantly assume that she's there to try and put them back in prison.
Yeah.
But
little did they know she could give a fuck about it.
Yeah. Not at all.
What? I'm a little preoccupied. Yeah.
Other stuff going on. You stay where you are. And then we get another scene where you realise quite how messed up Hero has become.
Yeah. There's a lot of back and forth between these two parts in this volume.
Because it's basically the kind of main thrust of this whole thing is Yorick and 355 and Dr. Mann being in Marysville and what's happening in Marysville. and Hero and the Amazons, well, Hero basically figuring out who the last man is
Yeah.
as they're in pursuit of him. So it's them trying to find him and him being still in one place long enough that these two paths seem to be converging over the whole course of this issue, this trade. So yeah, we get backwards and forwards between the two as one gets closer to the other.
I loved this whole part with Hero here.
Yeah.
Confronting the two females that threw Yorick out of the train.
Mm-hmm.
Her asking them, you know, what do you know about it? A man. People say you saw a man.
Yeah.
You've been saying it. And they're like, they're playing cards, and they're like, "Fuck you, bitch!" Blah blah blah. and she's like, "Oh, fuck me, huh? Here's an arrow to the hand."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, yup."
Yeah. She takes control of that situation really quickly in a really brutal way.
She's not putting up with anybody's shit.
No.
And it's pretty cool. Like it's terrible because she's hunting down her brother, but it's pretty cool how badass she becomes.
Yeah, I think the Figueroa's artwork is just so fantastic at conveying what's going on with these characters through their facial expressions, and that.
Oh yeah.
Yorick, you get loads of facial expressions all the time. He's very. His emotions and what's going on seem to be on the surface all the time, and you see that, but his expressions being constantly moving all over the place. Whereas Hero, at this point, she's so closed down emotionally that it's just nothing.
She has like one facial expression.
Yeah, you get like this.
Like pissed off.
She's just like this all the time. There's very little movement in what's going on. She's just She's just closed off. She's completely cold, and even when she's doing, which is what makes her seem so cool, when she's doing incredibly violent, incredibly out of the blue, explosively aggressive things, they're done in a very calm, cold, no anger to it sort of way. It's just like, oh, okay, well, I'm just having a hand and arrow, so maybe I'm going to shoot you next. And it's just terrifying because they're clear. It's like we were saying before. Victoria can see this in her, that she's got the capacity to be doing this stuff, and if you tweak her brain right, she'll do it without any questioning or qualm. You will point her at a goal, and she will go for that goal, whether it's sleeping with every man in the fire station or tracking down the last man on Earth and killing people to get there. It's
right.
She's
anything.
She's completely driven by people giving her goals to get to.
She's a lemming.
Yeah. And a very, very driven one.
Yeah.
And even in this scene, she finds out that she already suspected that because she'd heard that this last man was traveling with a monkey, and already she's thinking that's weird.
Yeah.
But in this, she finds out from these two women that the guy in the boxcar was called Yorick, and she's like, oh, a guy called Yorick traveling with a monkey. There's no way that these two things could be a coincidence.
Right.
And it kind of makes her wobble on where she's going, but we see Victoria later on sort of keep control over what's going on.
Yeah.
Get twisted in that brain. So we get that very soon, actually, don't we?
Yes, we do. Like the next page.
Yeah, I thought it was further along than that. And that's another great page, actually.
You just see Victoria manipulating her completely.
Well, the thing
if it's not mentally, it's physically. Like this scene, where she just straight punches her in the face. Yeah,
she knows how to break down any barriers she's putting up to what's going on.
Yeah.
The Figueroa's artwork again in this scene is just fantastic. The way she draws Victoria with no face, basically. It's just it's all in darkness. She's completely like a void. She's just this.
Just very menacing.
There's no human face on it anymore. It's this dark drive behind it to kill the last man. She wants men destroyed. She's always wanted that. She just never thought she'd get this close to getting it. And it's only when Hero sort of starts to question that, and this this weapon that she's forged turns on her, that she just exposes exactly how dark she is behind the smiles and the words. She's fucking evil.
Yeah.
She will do whatever it takes to make sure that all men are dead. This is kind of her drive, and she hides it behind rhetoric and language and books and statistics. But
Like this whole thing with her talking about Hero seeing Yorick's penis.
Mm,
Like, just
it just comes out of nowhere.
yeah, like all of a sudden.
And but it works. It gets straight into it. It just breaks the train of thought of what the hero's thinking and
Yeah.
shocks her into what? Yeah, I suppose I have seen his penis. What? Why?
Right.
And it's just really, and the fact that later on you get 355 talking about Waco and Koresh and things, and like that she's seen people that have been brainwashed, and you kind of see how that process is working here, and how brainwashing of that sort is subtle, something very brutal, subtle, and it's just such a well done thing. Horrible, really horrible.
Yeah.
The whole thing about semen is poison, and you want him to poison all your sisters. Oh.
Yeah, like, oh my god, like, so, like you said, like, just brainwashing.
Yeah.
Because like there was that part where where Victoria said, "You were disgusted, weren't you?" Referring to seeing his penis, and Hero's kind of on the ground saying, "Yes," like questioning it.
Yeah.
You know, like I suppose so. And then she just pounds it. Yes, you were. He's a monster. Yeah. And you just kind of realize that, yeah, this is definite brainwashing. Like, you're just soaking it up.
Yeah. And she goes through this whole thing about semen's poison. He's a monster with a hideous appendage, and just by the end of it, it just doesn't take long. It's just a certain interaction that Hero's just like, I love my sisters, we've got to kill him, and it's not even him. It's kill it.
Kill it. Yeah.
Which is so.
Yeah. It's kind of okay. Well, yep, that happened.
And you get, because you've got, like we were talking about, the lack of emotion that we have in Hero's face and stuff.
Oh god, yeah.
And then you get the conversation, because between them, when they've been having the conversation, you start to get a little bit of emotion coming back into the Hero's face, and she's questioning things, and she's starting to become more like the hero that clearly Yorick thinks she still is. And then you get that face with blood down the nose and kill it.
Yeah.
We can kill it.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yes. Really.
Yes.
Yes. And then we jump back to Marysville.
This is the other thing that I found very interesting in this, is we're jumping between these two places, but one is very, very dark and menacing, and the other is like so bright and cheerful and chipper. Yeah. And it's two complete extremes, opposite extremes. Because like we go from Hero saying she's gonna kill her brother to Yorick and Marysville thanking Dr. Mann for pretty much saving 355.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
yeah. I mean, you see it's just juxtaposing the difference between these two characters and the way that their brains are working, and it's really, really well done. That you've got the difference between them, and that they don't really understand how different the other is. And we see a bit of that. They kind of both underestimate how much each other is. Yorick isn't changed by this whole situation, like we were saying in the first one. Yorick's just Yorick. Yorick goes through it. There are with the dream sequence and stuff. There's suggestions that there is more to his reaction to it, and that he might be hiding some of his emotional stuff. But in his interactions with everyone, he's Yorick. He's jokes, fun, but Hero is not any of
Not
those.
at all.
There are no jokes from Hero. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get this interaction between Yorick and Sonya now, like this kind of first date scenario type thing. You know,
Yeah.
I always dreamed of my first date being chopping wood with a girl.
Having a conversation about whether she's a lesbian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and again, some of the things that she comes out with just make you love this girl. She's just
Oh yeah.
fantastic. The stuff that she comes out with is just superb. When Yorick sort of tiptoeing round whether it's a town of lesbians and everyone there's a lesbian or not, her response being, Yorick, it would take a hell of a lot more than all the men done to make me eat pussy. He's just
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Well, fantastic.
More.
Now that we got that over with.
Yeah, and his response is obviously, geez, you don't have to beat around the bush, do you? So to speak. Yeah, and then she's off with the axe.
Yeah. And then a little further, I liked the whole the part where he's guessing what color her panties are.
Mm-hmm.
That was funny.
Yeah. I think, see, as much as Yorick, at the beginning you kind of get the idea he's a bit of a romantic and a bit of a schmuck. He has some moments in this that are really, really cool. They're all pretty good with the ladies when you're not being a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that bit with the panties is quite, yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit later on where he just has one line and moment that's like, oh, well done. That was brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we get a scene with 355 and Dr. Man, and 355 being kind of all out of it because she's still pretty much unconscious.
Yeah.
Um,
Like throughout this whole volume, she's pretty much.
She's barely in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, wow, that took me by surprise.
Uh-huh.
This part where she's out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it tells you a bit about her relationship with Yorick, and also a bit about about Dr. Man and her relationship. And Dr. Man's response is really interesting to what she thinks is happening.
Yeah. Okay, let's fucking spoil it. Let's spoil it.
Yeah.
So
we'll spoil everything else. We might as well spoil it.
Exactly. Let's spoil this part. 355 is, like we said, completely out of it, but talking like in her sleep, whatever, saying she's sorry, and Dr. Man's like sitting by her bedside and taking care of her, and she's kind of like, "Oh, you're awake," and thinking that 355 is talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she apologizes and then comes out with this, "I want you," and then Dr. Man's like, you do?"
Mm-hmm.
And 355 says, "I don't understand it, but I want you." And Dr. Man says, "I'm not sure what to say. I mean, obviously you're a very, and I can only assume she was going to say nice, beautiful, whatever, woman. But then 355 interrupts her and says, "I want you, Yorick."
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Man's like, "Yorick?" And you're just kind of like, "Oh, shit.
Huh.
Okay."
Yeah. Because this series is just so well written. Because when you're reading back through it again, you're like, "Oh, okay, that makes a lot of interactions and scenes make sense in a way that was different to how they were before. The conversations that they've been having and the backwards and forwards is suddenly much more. You can see how it's more slightly flirtatious rather than just backwards and forwards, not really liking each other, not really getting each other, but rubbing along and getting to where you need to be. Yeah.
And now you wonder what the relationship is going to be past this point.
Yeah. And like I say, Dr. Man's reaction to it is quite interesting as well, because it's not I don't know what you're talking about. I don't. That's not. I'm not interested in anything like this at all. It's. Huh. I didn't
Yeah.
expect that, and
Yeah.
I'm a bit shocked that you've said Yorick now because that wouldn't have been as weird.
Right.
Yeah. She's obviously thinks she's an attractive woman, and it's not a no reactionist.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Ah.
It's like, ooh, well, okay.
Yeah. I suppose I have.
Oh, Yorick, son of a
Yeah.
bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a really interesting scene, that one. I do like it.
Yeah.
It kind of has the same sort of function as the dream sequence in the first one, where it gives you an insight into some of the things that are going unsaid and the worries and the emotional things that are developing throughout the series, and just like brings them out in not exactly dreams, then unconscious thought coming out.
Right.
Yeah,
That's the perfect way to do it while you're in a coma.
yeah, exactly. I love you. What? Nothing. I don't remember. What?
Nothing. I'm completely out of it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm thinking on the head with a rock. Shut up.
Oh.
Yeah. And then we get some more of Yorick and Sonia's date thing, where we get the panties conversation.
Yeah, the panties conversation, where he bets her that he can guess what color panties she's wearing, and he bets her his watch.
Mm-hmm.
And he guesses black, and she says, "Wrong. I'm not wearing any panties." And he comes back with, "Prove it." Perfect.
Yeah. And then he just adds that little bit of cool to it, where she's like, "Okay, give me the watch," and gives it to her. She's like, "That's my watch."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well played, Yorick. It's very good. And
then the kiss.
it works.
The kiss.
Yeah. Which again, big errors artwork. Just that lovely panel with just the two of them sort of looking at each other, and just
the middle panel. Yeah.
Perfect. Just that page with just slightly up on her tiptoes.
I was just gonna say, I love the fact
in
that
the background,
up on her tiptoes. Yep.
Yeah. It's brilliant. Absolutely perfect.
And then she's like, "Oh, we can't do this. This is wrong."
Mm-hmm.
And he's obviously gone to, "You're right. I'm an asshole. I have a girlfriend in Australia. We shouldn't be doing this." But really, she's like, "Oh, you're a good person, and I'm fucking terrible because I was a junkie."
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, that's not what I was thinking."
And there's there's a line that he comes out with here that just made me. So I know you so well, Yorick. Where she comes out with the "You're too good for someone like me," and he goes, "Wow, there's a line I never thought I'd have to hear again."
Yeah.
You think when all the women are dead, you're never going to have to hear that one.
Right.
I know all the men are dead. Sorry.
And then she goes on to explain how all the females in the town were prisoners, and explains that whole situation that we kind of already spoiled for everybody. Pre-spoil. Yeah. We spoiled our own spoiler.
We did.
And then he comes back to the town and is like furious about it.
Yeah, weirdly angry.
I didn't quite. It. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't quite get that. Like,
no,
why was he so pissed off?
Yeah, that was a bit odd.
Yeah,
how angry he is about the whole thing.
Like, he's really fucking furious.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was kind of taken aback by it. I was like, whoa, this doesn't seem like him.
Yeah.
But it could be also, like we saw with the dream, it's something laying underneath him that's just coming out,
Yeah.
Like, that's not right, they're free, they need to be in prison, blah, 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 they were in prison, they're terrible people.
And the other thing that comes out of it is just like they're criminals, they owe a debt to society, why are they getting to live in this paradise when you've seen all these other women that are struggling to eat and have no electricity, and there's lots of weird stuff going on in that reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Bum bum bum.
Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah, here he comes. Finally
Just
tracked him down.
yep. And he's pretty much Yorick is like, "Oh, hero, how'd you find me? You know,
Yeah.
why are you dressed like an Amazon?" And she fucking takes a fucking like the bow to the face.
Yeah. And his reaction to that as well is just like, she's just joking. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's
It's
just
my
some little weird.
sister.
It's a weird sister joke that she punches me in the face with a bow. I don't quite understand it, but it's a
But it's funny, right?
joke. Yeah. And then they see all of the rest of the Amazons outside. It's not a joke.
And it just got a lot fucking funnier.
Yeah.
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 Yes. So then we have this stand down between the Amazons with Hero and the criminals with Yorick.
Yeah.
And even after Yorick going off on them, like just being a complete asshole,
Yeah.
just, oh, they're criminals, they need to be in jail, blah, blah, blah. They're like, we need to protect him from these fucking crazy bitches outside.
Yeah.
Which is a testament to their character.
hmm And I mean, this reaction that we get from him is really similar to the one that he has when he comes out and does his big speech after he's nearly burnt down the White House in the first volume. Where
Right.
he's got his big speechy thing going on. He's just like, no, you women do the everyone you just see in that and this. All of them are just like, such a dick. Why just shut up and just be quiet for a minute and we'll sort this out. All right, just go back over there and let us sort this problem out that you've caused, you dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we get Victoria again.
And she comes out with all of her statistics in her speeches, and she
Oh
tries
my.
to.
Okay, let me. I just want to show something real quick. You see all the word bubbles on these 2 pages right here?
Mm-hmm.
This is all Victoria talking. This is nobody other than her saying one word in these 2 pages. That's a lot of fucking words. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And she's just spewing out this stupid shit. Like, we know you were in a penitentiary. This was a women's penitentiary, and you were put away by men, and you hate men, and you killed an abusive male or whatever. Like, just spewing this bile to get them to give Yorick up.
Yeah.
And then this last part, fucking, like, I was just like, oh my god, really? Where she's like, because once you make it past the scales, then the blindfold, justice is a woman with a sword. And I was like, oh my god, I want to punch you in the throat so bad.
Yeah, and like you say, the reaction to all of Marysville is all of their reactions to it is brilliant. Just like if you juxtapose the page where you've got Victoria's blah blah blah, and it's just pages and pages of speech bubbles, then you get the 2 panels of the reaction of all of the women of Marysville, which is just nope. But they've listened to everything you said, and it's like nope. we're going to protect Yorick. Actually, because you are a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's the old lady that he really went off on for killing her husband. Like, he went real hard at her. Mm-hmm. And Hero is pretty much like, so you're coming out, or we're going to do this the easy way or the hard way? And Sonya's like, we're doing it hard. She's like, hard, asshole. That's funny. And Hero's like, does that go for all of you? Mm-hmm. And the old lady just stands up, looks her dead in the eye, and is like, damn straight. And it's just like, all of them are just like, fuck you, bitches, we'll fucking take you on.
Yeah.
Even if you have weapons and we don't. That's kind of the thing.
Yeah. I think that it's really interesting the way that we've seen Victoria working all the way through this, that she is manipulating these young women who are scared and they've got nothing and they don't know what's going to work, and they feel like they need someone to tell them what to do. And she's using the fact that there are lots of the women that come with her particularly are ones that are really struggling with the fact that there's no men around because they don't know what to do. They've been they've relied on men to tell them what to do. That's been the way that they decided they want to live. And then when she tries that same spiel, the same stuff on these women Marysville, they're just like, none of that means anything to any of us.
Yeah, they're like, fuck you. We don't care.
No. And it's really interesting Hero's reaction to their reaction, that she's just like, oh, did you hear what she said? And they're just like, yeah.
Like, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, well, I'll go tell Victoria. I think she's going to be mad, though. You know?
I love the fact that it's like we were saying in the first one, that Pia Garrett doesn't draw women the same. They're all different body types, and all of the women that Brian K. Vaughan writes, every woman in this, they're all completely different from one another. You get completely fully rounded characters that you can understand their experience, their opinions, all of it comes through in just the way that they react and their actions, and it's just so well written that you understand these women and what they've been through and what would cause them to not listen to any of Victoria's bullshit and to not buy it, whereas Hero would. It's just so well done. And it's great because it's just because it's all women that are the characters in this, it doesn't mean that they're all going to be one type of character. It shouldn't have to mean that, and they're not at all. It doesn't need to be. It wouldn't matter if there were men in this town or not. You would still have them all having different characters, and it would be so. I don't know. You get lots of stuff in comics where it is women all have the same personality type and they all act in the same way, and there's none of that in here at all. All of them are completely individual, have their own opinions, backgrounds, voices. It's just. I don't know, I get very evangelical talking about this book and the way it's written, but it is so spectacularly well done that I know this old woman who's killed her husband, and you know what her reaction's going to be to it. And they play with it a bit when the whole speech is happening. They do part of the speech, and it kind of pertains to the crime that each woman has committed, and you think this is getting through to that individual woman because she's kind of nailing it for them.
But then she's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they all club together to try and save Yorick from the Amazons. And it goes less well than... well, yeah. It goes sort of well, kind of.
We're kind of skipping over a part that I thought was really great.
Okay.
So he's like not letting these women stick up for him. He's decided he's going to go out there and deal with Victoria and talk to her, and maybe she'll come around or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty much like, stop being stupid. Like, she's going to fucking kill you if you go out there.
Well, I mean, that's kind of his impetus for going out there, isn't it? He's just like, well, they're all armed, none of you have got weapons, they're going to kill all of you to get to me. So it's really interesting how quickly he's like, well, I'll go out there, if they kill me, it means the rest of you will survive. The whole me being the last man thing doesn't come into it at all for him. He's just
at all.
If it's me or of you dying, then I'm going out there right now.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no.
Yeah, they're like, this isn't high noon, Yorick, you're being stupid. That was fucking funny. And then he has this line where he's like, for a bunch of fucking criminals, you ladies are all right.
I love the one before that as well, where he's talking about, like, go and do the science stuff, and whatever happens, don't let those fucks touch my monkey.
Yeah.
He gives out a little scratch on the head. So, and then we have the moment, which I was talking about earlier, where really smooth moment.
Yeah.
This is the one I was like, oh, well done.
So I'm letting you say it.
Basically, he's talking to Sonia, and he's saying, I'm sorry about the 2 times I kissed you. And she says, 2 times? But you only kissed me. And then he just, bam, straight in there and gives her the second.
Second time.
Like, oh!
Fucking smooth.
Yeah, really smooth. Very unexpected from Yorick, but very smooth.
Yeah. And then we go outside.
Then we get the showdown.
And, yep, exactly. It is high noon. It is showdown time.
Mm-hmm.
Yorick comes out. I loved this because Victoria's just doing her thing. kind of manipulating Hiro.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you said you would have no problem getting your sibling out here, Hiro. And Hiro says, I know, Victoria, but he. And she says, forget it, we'll just torch the entire goddamn hospice. And York comes out and he's like, relax, psycho. Here comes your man. And I was like, yes!
Yeah. And he does that all the way through this last scene as well.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever she starts getting on a roll with her speeches, it's just like, nah, you're a psycho.
Yeah.
Because she does it again on the next page. She does the whole relax for Yorick thing, and he's just like, oh.
He's like, yeah, I never fucking heard that one before. You fucking twat. I lost it. When I was reading it, I lost it. I started laughing so hard.
And then he just starts talking about how she's turned his sister into a fucking monster and just goes for a hatchet-faced piece of shit. And just...
And then...
She goes into her speech again, and he's just
I loved the fact that he called her a hatchet-faced bitch. Because...
Yep.
Guess what, folks?
So she's got a gun to him on his knees, gun to his head, and then we just hear a click and a thunk.
And this is what she becomes. A fucking axe to the face.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Sonya has thrown an axe and caught it straight in the head with it.
Like, yeah, see, that's the funny thing. She's like yards away, like on the front porch of this house. They're all out in the front yard. Like, Victoria's fucking got this gun pointed right at York's head. You just see this axe right to her face, and Sonya's like, I did it. You're like, where the fuck did you learn to throw an axe?
That's fantastic.
And then we get, after that great build-up, we get the letdown. Like, just devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is where your emotions get all fucked up reading this book. Yeah. Because Hiro goes nuts and starts screaming because she was obviously in love with Victoria. She said it before earlier in this volume. That was her, like, who she was following. That's what she was doing. That's the person she's become now.
Yeah.
And now she has an axe in her face.
Yeah.
Freaks out. Has her bow and arrow pulled and shoots Sonya right in the chest. And Yorick is devastated. Yeah, Yorick's devastated. As the reader, I was devastated.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like, you kind of lose track of Beth in this volume.
Yeah.
She's only mentioned for a minute, and it's with regret.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just kissed you. I'm sorry. I know I have this girlfriend or my fiance or whatever she is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we forget about her again.
Yeah.
But now, you're like you got this relationship between the two of them that's obviously very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And when she dies, he's just, like I said, devastated.
Yeah. They just get, even though you've had all this. You've got all these women on the grass, on the lawn, you've got blood everywhere, you've got people freaking out with guns. They just have this quiet moment between the two of them where he's just holding her as she dies. And it's just, he barely says anything. It's just her talking, and the things that she comes out with are just so sweet and perfect. She says, it's all right, Yorick. I bet your girlfriend's pretty. I saw this documentary once on TV. It was about lions. They said that lions...
And then...
She's gone.
That's it.
And it's just...
And he, like, again with the devastation, he's laying on her dead body crying.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And then one of the girls comes out with a medical bag saying, is she... Obviously, she was going to say, is she dead? And Yorick walks over to this other girl who has a gun in her hand, and he's like... The first thing he says after this... Can I see this? Grabs the gun, says thanks, and points it right at his fucking sister's face. Like, right in her face. And she says, do it, please.
Yeah. And it's like we were talking about the lack of emotion there. You just get these like the beginnings of tears in her eyes, where she's just
Yeah,
brutal, just so brutal, and just the colouring that Pia Gary uses in throughout this. I'm not too sure if she does the colouring. No, I said that.
that sunset is freaking
Pamela Rambo
gorgeous.
does the colouring, yeah, and you. It's only when you get there that you realise that it's been happening throughout this scene that it's
And
gradually been
yeah, you
getting
didn't
more.
realize it.
It's been getting dimmer and dimmer, and it's kind of this end of summer feel, and it's the end of this nice bright spot in Yorick's life, and it's just finishing,
Yeah,
and it's finishing with these two just guns to each other, guns to her face, and it's oh god, it's spectacular.
yeah. Then you really notice like the sunset and like the next couple
Yeah,
pages because you see this like this actually happening. Like you get
yeah,
this sunset feeling in the because the
yeah,
background is gradually turning to it's going from yellows and blues to pinks and purples.
yeah, and you know
Um,
exactly what moment that is in the day. You've just like you've seen it, you've
yeah,
felt it. It's and yeah, I mean you get Hero's reaction to having the gun pointed in her face is first off the do it please really quietly, and then she does the whole like trying to push him into doing it with good boy. All you have to do is make a fist. The bullet does the hitting for you. Which is just
yeah,
oh, and that sounds like Victoria. That doesn't sound like Hero. It's the
yeah,
mask's gone back on, and she's pushing Yorick in the same way, and it's because she knows that he does this thing where he flips out when he feels like there's some sort of injustice going on, and
yeah. And we've seen it
like
too.
yeah, exactly. And he does the whole like she slaughtered an innocent girl. She's got to pay for this. It's like, and
Yeah,
everyone's like, just
he's got this
sister. It's like,
Batman-esque sense of justice.
yeah,
Like black and white. You did wrong. Fuck you.
yeah,
You know that, and the world isn't kind of really like that so much anymore, as we've seen with Marysville.
yeah. And then yeah, it's they have this great crossing the Rubicon conversation,
Yep.
which is yeah, basically Yorick says that she's killed someone, she's crossed the Rubicon, and Hero's like, the what? And it just really breaks the tension in a way that you can only the way that the back and forth goes with them. It's a sibling back and forth, and it can
Yeah,
only
it's
be
such a
like that.
yeah,
It's like he's like, shut up, shut up. What are you talking about? What are you talking about that now? And she's like, no, what's a Rubicon? You said it. What does it mean? You don't even know what it means. And he's like, shut up! I
yeah.
kill you.
Then she's like, "You don't know what it means, do you?"
Yeah,
And then they go through this whole thing where Dad liked you best, and yeah, and like he always thought you were the smart one, but you're not that smart.
yeah. And she's talking about like the things that she knows and the things that Victoria told her, and that she believed all of it, but she knows a lot about the real world as well. And she also knows the things that her parents taught her about this stuff. And it's yeah, you get into the head of these two, and they don't really. There's so much background family drama there, but it's not drama in like it was a traumatic childhood way. It's just general family stuff, but it's just been heightened because of this situation and what both of them have been through. To like that, it becomes guns to the face, killing people that you're in love with, stuff that's just huge. And then you get that the sun has set completely, and it's
Yeah,
just night and the electric lights on, and it's yeah, you realise exactly how much is what this town is and what these two have been, and it's all just squashed up in this little moment between the two of them. It's probably 5 minutes, maybe, if
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and it's just all there. It's like I've been saying before that there's a lot under the surface in this book, and every once in a while you get a little bit coming to the front, and it's huge, but at the same time very subtle and very quiet, and it's very good. And then you get a speech from the murdering old lady, which is brilliant.
yeah. I love her
Yeah,
because Yorick tells pretty much he gives the gun back and tells them to lock up Hero
Hmm.
and the rest of the Amazons, because if they don't, they'll burn down the city. Pretty much is what
Hmm.
he's worried about. And the old lady is pretty much, we can't do that. We'd be hypocrites if we did that.
Hmm.
And he's like, that's just insane. Like, you have to lock them up. They did wrong. Do it. And they're just like, nope. And he's like, fine, fuck it, whatever. We're
Yeah.
getting out of here.
And she points out, like we were saying, that these are they're scared girls. Basically, their
Yeah.
leader's gone. They were following the strongest person they could find. There's not. She understands the greys in this situation, that it's not black and white. That they didn't. That this is not who they are. This is not who they want to be. This is the situation. And yeah, it's Yorick gradually realizing that everything is not black and white. And this is not a world that works in that way anymore. If any world does. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Dr. Man tells like, she kind of reiterates what Yorick was saying, like, yeah, they fucking like torched my lab back in Boston. And then Hero's like, that's a lie, we didn't torch anybody's lab, we were just hunting down Yorick. And then she's like, well, if you didn't, who the fuck did it? And then we go, like, this is the only part, like, this last issue of this series, of this volume, we finally see Alter again.
Yeah.
And
She's not
we
been
get
in it for what, 5-6 issues?
yeah, we get the tiniest little taste about her, and you're just like, wait, what's going on with her? Like, you kind of completely forget about her.
Yeah. And the first thing you see is it's her stealing a helicopter.
Yeah, until she's stealing a helicopter.
And yeah, she's on the phone with whoever this mysterious person is.
Yep.
That's sending her after Yorick. And yeah, starting to get the sense of the sort of level that this is playing at, because there's like a seal on the door of the person that's on the phone to her. Yeah, but we just get that little snippet.
Yeah, and that's it.
With her, yeah.
And then we go to Yorick sitting by a campfire with a pair of scissors, which I mean, what did you take that as?
I don't know.
Like,
I mean,
were we supposed to take it as like he was gonna stab himself with scissors?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Like, aside from what happens at the end of this part, I didn't understand why he would have scissors.
No, it's quite unclear at that point until he has the conversation with 355 what he's doing with the scissors. And I don't think we're meant to think he's going to kill himself, but I don't know if there's that sort of suggestion there because of how he was happy with walking out into have a gun pointed at his head and stuff,
right.
And he's been quite.
Cause, I mean, that was my first thought.
Yeah.
My first thought was like he's gonna stab himself.
Yeah.
But then I didn't get it. I didn't understand why. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously some suggestions with things that he's done and with his reactions to things that he's more messed up by this whole situation than he lets on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not. If that had been what had happened, it would have been like, okay, that kind of was a little bit out of nowhere, but kind of does make some sense.
Yeah.
But then you get 355 coming in.
And she's like, it's a river. What? The Rubicon. It's a river in Italy. He's like, oh, okay. 355.
Yeah. I really love this scene between the two of them. Partly because of the way it's drawn and the colouring in it, which is just really nice. All of them coloured yellow because of the sat by the fire. Yeah. But it's the way that 355 comes in at the point when Yorick needs her most.
Yeah.
And just brings him back from this brink of the horrific depression that he was going through from just having this girl die in his arms. Yeah. And knows what to say to bring him back and just like get through to him a little bit, and they just have a little moment between the two of them, and it's just perfect. It's really lovely, especially with what we've seen in her delirious state with what she says. That
yeah,
it means you could have had this scene before that, and it wouldn't have meant as much as getting it after that. Because getting it now, you realise there's a lot more behind what 355 is saying to him than just I need to take care of this kid because it's my responsibility. She cares and she wants to make sure he's okay.
Yeah, I
It's
loved this part where he goes, "Forget it, Jake. It's Marysville."
Yeah, I did as well.
She's like, "Jake." He's like, "How do you know about the Rubicon, but you've never seen Chinatown?"
Yeah.
And then we find out what the scissors are for.
Yeah, and the way that he says it does suggest that it might be he picked them up not knowing what he was going to do with them.
Yeah.
Because it's I found them in Sonia's room and I thought, whatever, it's stupid. Kind of glosses round it and then it's like, I might need a haircut.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
Because he's not being 100% honest with that, I don't think.
Yeah.
Because, he's just had a girl die in his arms, he's just found out his sister's a psychotic killer. It's really, really screwed up his head.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly. But yeah, and then 355 is just there for him and gives him a haircut. And
He's like, I'll cut your hair.
Yeah. Like, what?
I'll do it.
And then she does the whole conversation about Waco and what she saw there and just like people who were... She had to go in to rescue a senator's daughter who was in the compound at Waco, and that the picture that she'd seen before she went there was nothing like the person she saw, because they were just, what was it? She was like black behind the eyes or something like that.
Yeah.
Basically,
her eyes were dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't help but think of the pictures that Pierre Guerra had given us of Hero and just and the pictures of Victoria. With the blackness behind the eyes. It's very good, and it's just such a sweet moment between the two of them.
And then we go to Yorick's sister puking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Brian K. Vaughan knows how to give you sweet moments and tension, and then just to completely throw you off balance with something else, which is just someone.
So we get this part in a prison because apparently Marysville decided to put these women in prison, and behind bars, and
they're going to put them in prison and then gradually release them once they feel like
they're
not in there for life. They're just there till they feel like they can be let out and socialise.
Yeah. But we get Hero throwing up a skeleton key because she learned it from her brother, the escape artist.
Yeah.
So she's going to be breaking out of prison. That's the last scene with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get
Yorick with his new haircut. So.
Yeah.
Not sure about it.
Terrible haircut.
Yeah, he's had a real scalping from 355 with these scissors. She clearly doesn't know what she's doing.
Not at all. Which explains the dreadlocks that she has.
Oh yeah.
But they pretty much the ladies from Marysville get them back on the train.
Mm-hmm. And then
and we get the crazy Russian again, spouting off about how there's men in space. They're up there.
I've got to get to Kansas.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is crazy. What is this crazy woman talking about? And then we find out what they're talking about. Little conversation between Dr. Mann and Yorick, which finishes with them just looking up at the night sky, looking up at the stars. And you just get this great, because you have a box at the beginning of each new scene which tells you where you are, when it is.
Yeah.
And this gives you 220 miles above Earth now. And it's a space station.
With a female floating.
Yeah.
There you go. Female floating in space, talking to someone who is off the panel. Flip the page. And 2 men in space! They're men in space!
Yeah, he's the last man on Earth.
And yeah, so I really enjoyed this volume. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, I really like this one. I think it really it gives you a little bit more depth to the relationships between each of the three characters on their journey.
Oh yeah.
It gives you a bit more of an insight into what Hero is going through and kind of where her head's at, which is terrifying.
which we don't really know because she's
Yeah.
fucking nuts.
And I think because it's after the first volume, which sets up the scenario, sets up the world, gives you a little bit of a impetus for this journey and what's going on. This one gives you the first interaction between this group and another group of characters. And
Yeah.
it's a really well drawn, really well created set of characters, and their personalities and interactions with each other and with the group that we know really gives you an insight into the way that this series works with character and the way that these people are really, and they're drawn as well and as clearly as the characters that we see in the first volume. They just don't. I like the fact that Brian K. Vaughan, just because these are characters that, as far as we know, and for some of them definitely, we'll only see in this volume,
Yeah.
he still makes them fully rounded, really important, really interesting, lovable characters, and the characters that you remember all the way through, because
Right.
they have an impact, they have a role, they are important, even if they're just there for a couple of panels. They have an impact on Yorick and alter how he is in his journey because of his memory of how he's been with them. His memory of Sonia is already making him a slightly different person at the end of this. In the beginning, he's already having to question why he's on this journey and what his relationship is going to be with Beth, and if he can feel this for Sonia, then what's he doing? And he's thinking about Beth at the end of it when he's on the train looking at the stars.
We're under the same night sky.
I've talked about
You know it's the afternoon over there.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great second volume. It's a good
Yep.
second story arc. It really cements everything that we get in the first one.
I'm really excited to read the third one.
Yeah, it's great because it's been nearly a year since I've read this, maybe a bit more than that. So I'm thinking, what happens in the next one? I'm not. I remember the overall, and I can remember bits, but I can't remember exactly which order they come in. So I'm really excited to see where we get next.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of remember. Yes, I'm very excited too. And I'm going to keep digging out the single issues just to look at the lovely covers. The one on 8 in particular is just with the
Oh yeah.
axe and tree stump and stuff.
Yep.
Love that axe.
Well, it's 5-4 here, and I have to go pick up my son at 4.
Okay.
So we ran a little longer this week than we did last week, but fantastic fun.
Really good fun.
Yep.
Really enjoying this.
Me too. It's been the best part of my day, that's for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see everybody next week. Thank you for joining us. I know I saw 4 people at one time were watching us. So thank you for watching us. Hope you watch us next week. It'll be Tuesday again.
Yep.
Early afternoon for me.
Early evening for me.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thanks
Thank
so much.
you for joining us.
See ya.
And we'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.